And of course, we're continuing to track Tropical Storm Calvin. I'm Chief Meteorologist Pete Caggiano here tonight, and we're joined by Eric Lau, meteorologist from the Central Pacific Hurricane Center at UH Manoa. Now, Eric, thank you for being with us. I know you're busy back there. It's going to be a late night. Did want to mention, we just had our reporter Jeremy Lee on. He's out in Naalehu, and so far it's been a little bit drier than expected. Talk about what folks in the southeastern section of the Big Island can expect to see tonight. Well, we're seeing that heavy rain up through Puna and through Hilo. It hasn't been as bad there. And just kind of talk a little bit about tropical storms and how the rain can kind of be variable depending on where you're at.
Right. So particularly with Tropical Storm Calvin, it is on a weakening stage. And if you kind of look at the image behind me, you can kind of see that moisture field, the reds and the greens. So definitely if you're out in Naalehu, you're definitely feeling the increased humidity and all that moisture that's coming on shore. Right now, Calvin is not as organized as it was this afternoon with developing thunderstorms. So right now it's just kind of this moisture plume that's kind of moving on shore. So the rain bands associated with Calvin may not be as organized as say like a full-on hurricane.
And even though it is a disorganized storm, what locations, we're still talking about the potential, especially with the geography of the Big Island. Sometimes you can get those downsloping winds that can really increase the winds. What locations on the Big Island could see the strongest winds, and are we still expecting the potential for gusts up to 70 miles per hour?
Right, so even though Calvin is weakening and it is going to take a southward dip under, south of the Big Island, the wind field associated with Calvin still extends out 140 miles. So the tropical storm force winds still extend out that distance away from the center. So folks can still see potential for windy and gusty conditions up to 70 miles per hour. In fact, this afternoon there was a gust to 70 miles per hour on top of Mauna Kea. So areas where there's mountains and gaps, places like Upolu and Kauai High, they'll definitely see some higher wind gusts through the night, and also places around the southeast coast and Puna area will definitely start to see some winds increasing as the night goes on.
And we also, while the storm's going to pass well south of Maui County, Oahu and Kauai, I think the winds could be a little bit stronger than people expect because of that high pressure you mentioned earlier. We were talking at 9 o'clock, and we have a big, powerful low pressure center in the sense of Calvin. Talk a little bit about what spots across places like Oahu could potentially see those downsloping winds we've talked about in the past, and how strong could those winds be?
Right, so with that strong high pressure bubble to our north and that low pressure system associated with Calvin, you have that big difference in pressure between the high pressure and the low pressure. So that rush of air from high to low is really what's going to be causing some of the stronger winds. The smaller islands of Maui, Oahu, and Kauai, they're kind of sandwiched in between these big synoptic scale systems. So that big rush of air across the islands is going to cause that gustiness. And as winds go up the mountains and it goes down the other side, downsloping effects, when the acceleration of that air and the winds is really going to cause some increased winds across leeward sections. Places like Kahuku, Ma'alaya, those areas where your winds can accelerate around points and then through mountain between the West Maui Mountains and Haleakala. You can definitely get that funneling effect in between those two large land masses.
Well, we want to thank you. That's meteorologist Eric Lau again from the Central Pacific Hurricane Center. Eric, I know you're going to be busy for the rest of the night, so we want to thank you for taking out the time and talking with us. Of course, we've got much more coverage of Calvin. We're going to talk about the wind, the waves, and of course the rainfall and when that could arrive in different neighborhoods. So Eric, thank you very much, and we'll be back in just a moment with that. Mika.